Hey guys, today I'm going to be installing and reviewing Pop! OS. Pop! OS, I've been getting a lot of viewers requesting that I review Pop! OS. I actually have never looked at Pop! OS myself. Pop! OS, for those that are not familiar with it, is an Ubuntu-based Linux distribution that's very new. It's created by the guys over at System 76. System 76, as many of you know, they make desktops and laptops that run Linux. They're probably one of the biggest sellers of computer hardware that runs Linux out of the box. For years they shipped computers that were running Ubuntu. They were all in on the Ubuntu train, but recently Ubuntu announced that they were switching from their standard Unity desktop that they've been running for many years, and they're switching back over to the GNOME desktop environment. And when that news first broke, System 76 decided, you know what, instead of shipping, mainline Ubuntu anymore, they were just going to do their own custom spin of Ubuntu, with all their extra customization that they want to do, any drivers or whatnot. To better support their hardware. Also their own customized GNOME shell rather than whatever GNOME shell Ubuntu ends up shipping with. So that's how Pop! OS came into existence. When you go to the download page for Pop! OS at system76.com here, you have a very attractive web page here telling you a little bit about the distro. Very clean looking website. Anyway, we have the download button here, and then you have the option of downloading download Intel/AMD or download NVIDIA, depending on what video drivers you need. And I'm assuming, as far as what video drivers you need, they're assuming that you're probably running like Intel or NVIDIA on System 76 hardware. That's probably what they're thinking. So, keep that in mind. So you, for example, if I downloaded the download NVIDIA link here, if I was running like a really old NVIDIA card, that may or may not work for me. Anyway, just something to keep in mind. Of course, today I'm not going to be installing Pop! OS on physical hardware. I'm going to install this inside a virtual machine. So, I fired up the ISO here. We don't get any kind of boot menu when you load up the ISO. It just goes straight to a live environment, which is pretty cool. It took about a minute to get to the live environment. And looks like a standard kind of GNOME shell here. Before running through the installer, I do want to make one mention about the live environment here. I'm going to click Activities here. Gparted. Gparted is included on most live desktop environments out there. The reason is Gparted is very important for system rescue. For example, if this was your standard Ubuntu ISO, Gparted, it would be on that ISO. Your live USB or your live DVD that you create, you would have a Gparted on it, which makes the Ubuntu ISO great as a system rescue DVD or USB stick. Not so with Pop! OS, not having Gparted on it. Now, of course, you can pull up a terminal and download Gparted in the live environment, get it installed, and still use Gparted. But that's assuming you have a machine that actually has internet access. If you didn't have internet working on the machine, then not having some of those system rescue tools like Gparted installed, that's something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'm going to click Install Pop! OS. This is Pop! OS 17.10. I'm going to quickly run through the installer. This looks like the standard Ubiquity installer that Ubuntu uses. English has been chosen as our language. I'm going to click Continue. Right, keyboard layout here. English US has been chosen. We can test it out in this test field. Everything's working correctly. Alright, installation type. Erase disk and install Pop! OS. This basically just gives the entire 15 gig hard drive of this virtual machine. Just lets Pop! OS do whatever it wants to do with it. Or we can go down here and choose something else and manually partition. I'm just going to give the entire 15 gig hard drive to Pop! OS. So just going to click install now. Alright, we get a little warning about to write to the drive and format the disk. I'm going to click continue. Right, the installer has begun. This may take a few minutes to run through, so I'm going to pause the video. Alright, and the installation is completed. Now we need to restart the machine. Alright, we reboot the machine. See how long Pop! OS 17.10 takes to boot up. Doesn't look like it's going to take us to a login manager of any kind. Of course, in the installation, we never created a user or a password. So, looks like we're going to do all of that in this little post-installation script here. So, it's a welcome screen. Here, I'm just going to click Next. English US has been selected for the keyboard, which is correct. Didn't we choose all this before? Anyway, some privacy settings. Location services allow applications to determine your geographical location. Yeah, I'll leave that ticked on for purposes of this review. It has correctly chosen the central time zone in the US for me, so click Next. Connect our online account, so we have the option of connecting our Google, Nextcloud, Facebook, Microsoft, Flickr, Pocket, Foursquare, and various other social media accounts. I'm not going to bother connecting to any of those for this video. Alright, then we need to set up our user details. Full name, I'm just going to type Pop for this, and the username, I'm just going to use Pop. We have the option of encrypting our home folder. I'm not going to do that on a virtual machine. Then we need to create a password for the user I just created. Alright, start using Pop! OS. Alright, we got to our login manager here. This looks like the standard GNOME Display Manager, GDM. VirtualBox Guest Editions work out of the box. Of course, the VirtualBox Guest Editions work out of the box on Ubuntu. Pop! OS is based on Ubuntu. Alright, and it looks like your standard GNOME shell here. If I hit the super key here, we get our little dot come up here on the side. Anyway, I'm going to go up here to the top left hand corner, hit activities here, and I'm going to go through the programs installed by default here on Pop! OS. So I'm going to click the Show Applications launcher here in the dock. Alright, we have Calculator, we have our calendar, we have contacts, we have files. This should be the Nautilus file manager, the standard file manager in the GNOME desktop environment. Of course, GNOME just calls it Files now. That's how it appears in menus, but the actual name of the program, like if you were launching it from a command prompt, is Nautilus. Alright, and then back to our applications here. Firefox is the web browser here in Pop! OS 17.10. See what version of Firefox we're using. Okay, it's using Firefox Quantum. This is 57.0.4. Close all the tabs there. Alright. We have Geary as our email client. That's interesting because you would think they would probably go with Thunderbird as an email client since you're using Firefox as your web browser. So it's an interesting choice for an email client. Okay, we have this little subgroup here, this Office subgroup, where we have basically LibreOffice installed. We have Calc, Draw, Impress, Math, and Writer. Alright, we have Pop Shop. Let's see what the Pop Shop is. Okay, this is their software center. Looks like the GNOME software utility, or at least it's partially based on that. We have all these big tiles here for subcategories. Say I wanted to search for audio programs, you click audio, and then you have a list of all the audio programs that you can install. Everything from Amarok and Ardour to things like G-Music Browser, G-Potter, and so forth and so on, Pulse Audio, and various other things. Let me go back to the home. Let me search for something I know is not installed by default. We already said Geary was the default email client. So let me search Thunderbird. Thunderbird comes up in the search results here, and all we would have to do is click install here and it would install Thunderbird on the system. Alright, let me go back to the applications, click activities, click the show applications here in the dash here. One thing I would say, I know they were probably concerned with how Ubuntu would implement the GNOME shell when they heard about Ubuntu switching from Unity to GNOME. I mean, that's what spurred System 76 to develop their own GNOME spin here. But quite frankly, Ubuntu does GNOME better. By default, Ubuntu has that dock on the left-hand side that shows all the time. For example, it would take away this step that I'm doing where I click activities to get the dock to come up and then click the show applications on the dock to show the applications. Really, that dock should just be on the screen at all times. There's no reason to ever have it hidden unless I have, an application full screen. But anyway, it's one minor gripe. That may be just my personal opinion, though. Just throwing that out there. We have settings here. This is going to be, of course, our system settings, our settings manager, where you have all your options for setting Bluetooth, background notifications, region and language, your online accounts, power, network devices, and whatnot. Then we have our little system subgroup here, where we have disk usage analyzer, the disk utility, input method, language support, password and keys, power stats, software and updates, startup applications, and system monitor. Let me check out the software and update utility here. This is the standard software and updates tool in Ubuntu. So you have the option of adding and removing different repos, adding your third-party drivers. So pretty cool that they included all those Ubuntu goodies by default. Also, under the system subgroup here, we had System Monitor. Let me go ahead and launch the System Monitor. I'm assuming this is the GNOME System Monitor. But let's check out resource usage here in Pop! OS. So, I gave this virtual machine 2 CPUs, 2 cores of my 6-core CPU. And it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. It's using between, 15 and 20% of both CPUs. So that's not too bad, actually. Pretty standard for GNOME. Memory usage is actually a little high, though. 1.4 gigs of 5.8 gigs that I gave this virtual machine. That's a little high for the memory footprint. I'm not sure what's using all that memory right now, because I'm not doing anything inside this virtual machine other than I'm running the system monitor. So, alright, we have our terminal. The terminal, of course, is going to be the GNOME terminal. It is GNOME terminal 3.24.2. While I've got the terminal open, let's see the kernel we're using here. So uname and then space -a. This is the Linux Pop! OS 4.13.0. So pretty recent kernel. We have our text editor. This should be the standard text editor in the GNOME desktop environment, which is gedit 3.22.1. And back to the applications, we have our utility subgroup here. We have our archive manager, our character map, document viewer, Eddy. I'm not sure what Eddy is. Eddy, install some apps, drag and drop .deb files or open to begin installation. Okay, so this is a utility to help you install Debian files, files that end in .deb. Also under the utilities subgroup, we have fonts, help, image viewer, our screenshot utility, simple scan for scanning, and videos, which is going to be, let's see what program this is. It doesn't tell me. I always hate programs that don't have some kind of about information on them. I would at least like to know the name of the program. But anyway, looks like a standard video program. You have the option here, videos. You have this tab for channels. I'm assuming we can watch like live TV, live streaming. So, and that is it for everything that is installed by default on Pop! OS. So it is not just a loaded down ISO with a ton of applications installed by default, but it really does install everything you need. I mean, browser, full office suite, email client, terminal, text editor, some software utilities. So you know, it's got everything you need, but it doesn't have a lot of extra cruft. So good job on that, System 76. Let's take a look at some of the customizable options for Pop! OS. I'm going to right click on the desktop. I'm going to select Change Background. See what kind of wallpapers we have. So in this screen we have the option of changing the background of our desktop or the background for the lock screen. I'm going to choose background here. And it looks like we have some really nice looking wallpapers installed by default. I'm going to choose this first one here. Yeah, pretty cool stuff here. Really gorgeous wallpapers here. Let's see if I can find something appropriate with our dark GNOME panel at the top. So maybe something a little lighter in color to contrast the panel at the top. Maybe this one here. This is kind of cartoonish. Yeah, pretty cool. How about this jellyfish here? Yeah, I like it. I'm going to stick with that for this video. Right, I'm going to go back into the application menu here and I'm going to choose the settings. This is our settings manager. And again, we have our standard settings here for Bluetooth, background, notifications, search, region, and language. The standard stuff. At the bottom we have details, which is just kind of about your system. Tells me memory, processor, graphics, disk space. One thing I was looking for was theming, icons, how to change any of that. I go to activities up here. So let me search for themes. And nothing is returned, at least nothing that is installed. It gives me some options for programs I could install. How about icons? Yeah, the same thing. So there may not be any kind of like tweak tool or anything to change the theming here in Pop! OS by default. That's unfortunate if that's the case. But I could probably install like the GNOME tweak tool and for changing themes and icons and whatnot. I wonder if the Synaptic package manager is installed in Pop! OS by default. It doesn't look like the Synaptic package manager is installed either. So you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and install Synaptic. Just for purposes of this video, just to run through installing something that's not already on the system. So it opens up your software center. You hit install. It asks for your root password. You give it the root password and it installs it. Dead simple. New users would have absolutely no problem. It's so much easier to install software on Linux than it is on proprietary operating systems such as Windows, where you don't have this repo where everything just sits. You type some search, search for whatever program. It tells you yes, it's in the repos. You click install and it's done. In Windows, there's no real central repository. I know now they do have a Windows store, a Microsoft store, but still most of the time you're going out on the net and getting third-party software, downloading it. You're trusting that it's safe to download that stuff you're putting on your computer and installing it on your computer. But anyway, don't get me started on Windows. Anyway, now that I have Synaptic installed, I'm going to go ahead and launch Synaptic. I'm actually curious if the GNOME tweak tool works on Pop! OS, so I'm actually going to go ahead and install it. So GNOME-tweak. And I actually have the GNOME tweak tool here in the search results. Let me go ahead and mark it for installation. I'm going to click apply. And to be installed, GNOME tweak tool, hit apply. And of course, for a graphical package manager, the Synaptic package manager that's found in Debian and Debian-based distros such as Ubuntu and Pop! OS. Another very user-friendly program. Not hard at all, not a scary program to run. Alright, now I have the GNOME tweak tool installed. Let's see if I can find it here in the menu. Here it is, tweaks. Alright, and now let me go to appearance. We have themes. Looks like the default theme is called Pop. We also have the option of Pop Dark. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. And let me open the file manager, the Nautilus file manager, to see how that looks. Yeah, that's actually not a bad looking theme. See, we also have Pop Dark Slim. Okay, it makes the top title bars a little thinner. I actually like that too. Pop Light, which is a standard light colored theme. And then we have Light Slim. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to go with Pop Dark Slim for the theme. We have options for changing the cursor. I'm fine with the black cursor that's default. We have icons. This is the Pop icon theme. We also have Pop OS branding, which is nothing here, so that actually doesn't do much for us. We have the add weight to icon set, which is the default GNOME icon set. We have the Ubuntu mono dark icon set, which is that orange icon set you see that's default in Ubuntu. So really no icon sets. So I'm just going to go back to the default Pop icon set. So that's the theming. Here at the top of the title bar, the toolbar here, the taskbar, of course you have your notifications, your calendar. We would have weather information here as well. Over here in the notification, the sys tray area, we have our network connections, we have volume, and then we have our session controls where we can log out or reboot the machine or shut down the machine. So my final thoughts on Pop OS. Well, I will say it's hard to give a review on Pop OS knowing that it's designed by 76, mainly geared for System 76 hardware. It includes all the drivers needed, the proprietary drivers for your NVIDIA graphics cards or Intel chips or whatever, that's shipped on your System 76 machines that are designed to run, the Pop OS operating system here. I'm installing this in VirtualBox. So it's not going to be the greatest review, but I will say just for a desktop experience, I expected a little more from Pop OS because I've been hearing a lot of good things about it. It needs to have a dash to dock extension by default. This dock here, this needs to be on your screen at all times. The way Ubuntu did it with the full screen dash to dock where it almost like mimics the Unity launcher, that's fine. Or if you just want it the standard dash to dock, where you have it centered here, that's fine too, but you need some kind of dock always on the screen. In my opinion, I think that's what new users especially, they expect to have some kind of dock or launcher or something, right here where they can get to it quickly without having to go to activities to get this to come up. So anyway, that's again just my opinion on that. I also think where they dropped the ball is not having something like the GNOME tweak tool installed by default. I installed it myself. The same thing with the Synaptic package manager. I installed that myself. I really think they should include tools like Synaptic and the GNOME tweak tool by default. They should just be included. Again, this is really geared toward newer users anyway. I think it just makes new users' life a little easier if you just have everything laid out for them in a very straightforward way. But anyway, Pop OS, the install, gets an A+ because it's the standard Ubiquity installer that Ubuntu uses. The easiest installer in the world to use. You click OK about 3 times and you're done in 10 minutes. And the actual desktop is based on Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a very stable, straightforward distro. And I really don't hate their implementation of GNOME. Again, I just wish they included a couple of more extensions by default and maybe a couple of more programs by default. As I mentioned, it didn't come with a ton of software installed by default on the ISO, which I don't hate, but they could add a few more software options and theming options on the ISO by default, in my opinion. Anyway, Pop OS, I give it a thumbs up. Check it out, guys. Peace.